The last signal space was silent, cold, endless. A small escape pod floated near a dying red star. The pod was broken, its lights flickered weakly. Inside, a human sat alone. His name was Captain Elias Gray. He had been drifting for days, maybe weeks. He had lost track of time. Elias pressed a button on the panel in front of him. A soft red light turned on. A recording device was now active. "This is Captain Elias Gray." He spoke, his voice tired but calm. "If anyone hears this, I hope you're not too late." He paused. He looked at a small photo taped to the pod wall. A woman and a child were smiling. His wife, his daughter. "Earth is gone," he said quietly. "They destroyed it. I don't know why. Maybe we were a threat. Maybe we were nothing to them. It doesn't matter now." His hand shook as he turned the oxygen dial. The level was low, dangerously low. He took a slow breath. "I'm not sending this to ask for help," he continued. "I just want someone to know we tried. We weren't perfect, but we tried to be kind. To be more than animals." He stopped speaking. His throat was dry. He closed his eyes for a moment. He knew he didn't have much time left. Far away, in another part of the galaxy, a damaged alien ship moved through deep space. Its hull was scarred, its engines weak. Inside, the last member of her crew sat alone. She was not human. Her skin was pale silver, her eyes glowed faint blue. Her name could not be spoken in any human language. Her people had once been strong warriors, but the war had left her kind nearly extinct. She was a widow. Her mate had died in battle. She had seen his ship explode in front of her eyes. Since then, she had wandered space, not looking for anything, not hoping for anything, just floating, waiting for the end. Then a signal appeared on her screen. It was weak, old human frequency. She almost ignored it. But something inside her, maybe memory, maybe loneliness, made her press play. The voice of Elias filled her ship. She didn't understand every word, but she understood enough. She heard sorrow, she heard truth, she heard kindness. She played it again and again. She watched his face on the screen, his tired eyes. The way he looked at the photo beside him. For the first time in years, she felt something. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls. The coordinates of the signal were still there, barely. She set a course. Her ship was slow, broken. It would take time. And the closer she got to the red star, the more dangerous it became. The radiation levels were rising. Her systems warned her again and again. She didn't care. The signal grew stronger as she got closer. She listened to more of Elias's recordings. Small things, stories about his daughter, about how humans used to laugh, cry, hope. He spoke of stars and books and music. Things she had never known. She whispered in her own tongue, "Who are you, human? Why do your words reach me?" Finally, her ship came into view of the pod. Her scanner showed the human was still alive, but barely. Oxygen almost gone. Heartbeat slow, body cold. She hesitated. Should she dock? Should she open the door? Her people had feared humans once, called them wild, dangerous, unpredictable. But this one spoke of kindness. He had no reason to lie. No one was listening except her. She docked. Inside the pod, Elias heard the hatch unlock. He opened his eyes, thinking it was a dream. Then he saw her, tall, strange, beautiful in an alien way. Her eyes glowed, and she was holding something, a small silver canister. Oxygen. He tried to sit up, failed. She knelt beside him and placed the mask on his face. Her hands were gentle. He breathed, for the first time in days. He breathed fully. He looked into her eyes. "Why?" he asked. She didn't answer. She only touched the recording device and pressed play. His own voice filled the pod again. "We tried to be kind." She looked at him again, nodded slowly. And for the first time in her life, she smiled. Space remained cold and dark. But inside the broken pod, something small and powerful had just begun, a fragile connection, born not from war, but from understanding. They were strangers. They were dying. But now, they were not alone. The stranger's voice of human was still alive. But only just. Captain Elias Gray lay inside the cold, broken pod, breathing slowly through the alien oxygen mask. Each breath was a gift and a question. He looked at the alien woman who had saved him, tall, thin, silver-skinned, with glowing eyes that seemed both ancient and wounded. She had said nothing. She didn't need to. Her actions had already spoken louder than any words. Elias had prepared to die. He had accepted it. But now he didn't know what came next. The alien woman stood up, scanning the pod. Broken systems, leaking heat, low power, no jump drive. They were trapped. She knew it. He knew it. But she didn't turn away. She touched a panel on her wrist. A soft humming began. Her ship was scanning the area. No rescue was coming. This was not a mission. It was a choice. She chose to stay. Elias watched her, confused, weak. He managed a whisper. "Who are you?" She looked at him but didn't answer. Instead, she pressed a device on her chest. A small blue light blinked, translator initializing. It failed. She tapped it again. The light blinked, flickered, then died, she sighed. Then she did something unexpected. She sat down across from him and took out a small crystal sphere. It glowed softly. Inside, a flickering image played, two figures, her and another of her kind, laughing in an alien garden surrounded by golden trees. Elias stared. He understood. It was her past, her memory, the man beside her, her mate. She looked away. As the image faded, her face showed no tears, but her eyes dimmed. Elias slowly pulled out the photo of his wife and daughter. He held it up. Their eyes met again. Nothing was said, but everything was shared. In her language. She was called Sareen, though no human mouth could speak it. Her people were once conquerors, now survivors. The war had taken everything, her home, her mate, her reason. She had wandered the stars with no destination, no orders, no purpose, until she heard his voice. It was not his words that called her. It was the quiet pain in them, the strange hope buried under sorrow, the way he said, "We tried to be kind." No one had spoken like that in her world for centuries. She didn't know if he was a soldier, a poet, or a fool, but he was real. Now, trapped near a dying star, she had found the one creature in the galaxy who was more broken than her, and she had saved him. Elias tried to stand, but pain shot through his leg. He collapsed. Sareen reached forward, steadying him gently. He chuckled. "Guess we're both too damaged to stand, huh?" She tilted her head, clearly not understanding the words, but hearing the emotion behind them. Then, from her side pack, she pulled out a strange object, a thin screen filled with symbols and shapes. It began to shift, learning, adapting. She pointed to herself and tapped her chest. "Sa-Rien," she said slowly. Elias repeated it. "Sareen." She nodded once. He pointed to himself. "Elias, Laws," she echoed, carefully. It was a beginning. Hours passed. The pod was quiet. The hum of distant solar storms echoed outside. The red star pulsed, unstable. Any moment, it could erupt in violent flares. They sat across from each other, exchanging small items. He showed her how his recording device worked. She showed him a glowing stone that played alien music, soft, sad notes that echoed through the metal walls like a lullaby from another world. The translator device tried to sync again. It picked up fragments. "Human, Earth, gone, alone." Sareen frowned. She understood those words too well. She tapped on the screen and drew a simple image, a circle, cracked down the middle, with small stick figures flying away from it. He nodded. "Earth." She drew another image, a giant black ship firing beams toward a blue planet. Elias's eyes darkened. He whispered, "Them." Sarian's hand trembled. She drew a symbol, the one that had been painted on every warship that destroyed her world. The same one he now recognized from the burning of Earth. They looked at each other in shock. It was the same enemy. They had both lost everything to the same destroyers. Suddenly, this wasn't just a meeting of two survivors. This was something else. As they sat in silence, the pod shook slightly. Outside, the red star let out a small flare. Their time was running out. Elias leaned forward. "Can your ship still jump?" She shook her head. "Mine can't either." They were stranded. But in the heart of that hopeless truth, something powerful began to grow. Not fear, but connection. HRIN stood and offered him her hand. He took it. They couldn't speak the same language, but they understood each other. In the only way that mattered, they were both ghosts of lost worlds, but together, they might become something more. A quiet voice echoed through the pod, Elias's old recording, playing from the device. "If anyone hears this, just know we weren't monsters, we were people. We loved, we dreamed, we tried." Sareen didn't understand every word, but she believed everyone. And for the first time in years, she wanted to try again. Collision course. The red star trembled. A soft tremor shook the escape pod, and the walls groaned like dying metal whales. Deep in space, near the heart of a collapsing system, danger wasn't loud. It whispered, growing stronger with every passing second. Captain Elias Gray opened his eyes. His chest ached, his leg was stiff, but he was alive, and he wasn't alone. Sareen stood near the pod's view screen, her glowing eyes watching the storm outside. Colors bled across the void, violet flares and golden radiation waves. The star was unstable, close to death, and it would take them with it. "How long do we have?" Elias whispered, his voice dry. Sarian turned. She didn't understand his words, but she understood the question. She tapped her control pad and drew a simple symbol in the air, a circle, cracking apart. With a countdown. 3 marks. 3 hours. The red star would erupt, maybe go nova, maybe collapse in on itself. Either way, nothing near it would survive. Elias leaned back. Hell of a place to make a friend. Sareen didn't speak. She stepped closer, knelt beside him and carefully helped him up. Every movement hurt, but he bit his lip and didn't complain. Not now. Outside the pod, her ship, more advanced but damaged, was docked awkwardly to the escape pod. Cables linked them together like veins connecting to dying hearts. But there was one hope: her ship had a working short-range drive. Not enough to escape the system, but maybe enough to reach a derelict station nearby. Sareen had found it on her old star charts, abandoned but still showing power signatures. If they could get there, they might survive. For a little longer, the two limped together into Sarian's ship. The lights flickered. The floor panels hissed under pressure. Every few minutes, something sparked. Elias had seen old submarines in Earth's museums. This ship reminded him of those deep-sea machines creaking under pressure, holding back a flood of death just one thin wall away. Sareen moved quickly, checking systems. She connected her ship's core to the pod, transferring oxygen and heat. She didn't speak, but her urgency spoke for her. Elias, though barely standing, helped. He didn't understand her tools, but he knew pressure valves, fuel lines, and emergency seals. Pain throbbed in his leg, but he worked beside her anyway, and when their eyes met, something passed between them. Not just survival. Trust. But space is never silent for long. A warning alarm blared. Sareen ran to the controls, her eyes widened. Outside, a new threat approached, a gravity wave. The Red Star's first major pulse had been triggered, a ripple in space-time strong enough to tear apart small ships. Their two vessels, barely held together by cables, would be crushed if it hit them here. Sareen looked at Elias. He was staring at the same screen. He didn't need a translator to know what it meant. "We have to launch," he said. She nodded. "But your ship can't hold both of us, can it?" She hesitated, then shook her head. Only one person could survive the gravity jump. A silence settled between them, deep, sharp, real. Elias leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "So that's it." Sareen stared at him, then at the cables connecting the two ships. And then, without a word, she turned and began disconnecting them. Elias's eyes widened. "What are you doing?" She looked at him. The translator device clicked. One word came through: choice, then another: mine. Elias stepped forward, stumbling. "No, you saved me. You can't die for me." She looked down. Her face was calm, her eyes sad. "You gave voice," she said slowly, "when I had none." He blinked. She had understood more of his message than he thought. She had listened. "You gave me hope," she added. Her voice was shaking. The cables hissed. One snapped. Elias shouted, "No. We find another way." But Sareen was already back at her controls, setting the drive to launch. She was going to stay behind and send him away, and that was when Elias made his choice. He grabbed the main power conduit and pulled. The ship went dark. Saw HRI and turned, shocked. "If one dies, we both do," Elias said quietly. "We find another way, or we go together." She stared at him. Her hands trembled, not from fear, from something else. Something alien, something human. A war widow and a dying man. In that moment, they were no longer just survivors, they were allies. And together, they would not give up. Sareen ran a new scan. Her ship's AI picked up an object hidden behind one of the system's shattered moons, a small structure not natural. Possibly a forgotten listening post. She looked at Elias. Tapped the screen, his eyes lit up. "We jumped there." The ship's power returned. He had reconnected the core. But now, both of them were inside. The ship wasn't meant to carry two through a gravity wave. It could break apart. Sareen looked at him. "Final warning." Elias simply smiled. "We go together." She nodded. And they launched. As the ship entered the wave, time warped, space twisted, metal screamed. Sareen held the controls steady. Elias held onto the wall, teeth clenched. Outside, the Red Star exploded in a brilliant pulse. The ship shook violently. A panel exploded behind them. Elias was thrown. Sareen reached, caught his arm. A moment later, everything went white, then silence. The stars returned. The ship had made it. Barely. They floated near the edge of the abandoned outpost. Old, broken, but still breathing with power. They had survived, but it had cost them more than fuel and metal. They had crossed something else. A line between strangers and something stronger. Partners. And the universe had just taken notice. Learning to speak. The station was dead, but not silent. Captain Elias Gray floated through the corridor, flashlight in hand, breath echoing inside his helmet. Around him, the ancient listening post groaned with the weight of time. Old metal, dry. Air faded. Alien symbols covered the walls. Something had lived here once, or died here. Sareen moved beside him, scanning with her device. Her movements were cautious, calculated, but her eyes kept drifting toward Elias. He was limping again. She could see the pain he tried to hide. He waved her off every time she reached to help. "I'm fine," he whispered, even though she couldn't understand. But the truth was, neither of them was fine. The jump had damaged the ship. The gravity wave had pushed the hull past its limit. They couldn't go anywhere now. And this old station, their last hope, had no working engines, no communication or a No way to call for help. They were alive. But stranded. Hours passed. The station was cold but breathable. Sareen had restarted one reactor using a plasma converter from her ship. It gave them light, heat, and a little time. Elias sat near a glowing heat panel. Slowly wrapping a cloth around his leg, Sareen knelt across from him. Her tools scattered across the floor, pieces of the translator device she was trying to rebuild. They hadn't spoken in hours, not because they didn't want to, but because they couldn't. Elias stared at her. Sareen, the widow, the warrior, the stranger who saved him. How could someone from a race that once fought his kind care so deeply? How could someone so different feel so familiar? He pointed at himself, Elias. Then he pointed at the photo taped inside his chest pocket. Family. Sareen followed his eyes. Her translator flickered. Child, she said softly. Mate, he smiled. Progress. She tapped her chest. Sareen, he repeated it, more clearly this time. Then she took a small cube from her side pouch. When activated, it projected another memory. This time of a city floating in clouds. Alien architecture, glowing plants. A child, not hers, but young, happy, flying with energy wings. A city now gone. My niece? Elias guessed. Saw HRI and nodded. Then she added two more words, was light, and the cube dimmed. Her hands trembled slightly, but she didn't cry. She never cried, not even when the stars took everything. The translator improved. Little by little, they began to exchange stories, halting, broken, full of pauses and sketches drawn on old metal walls. Elias told her about books. About how humans used to write stories to survive the darkness, about music and oceans and campfires under open skies. Sareen told him about the war, not with pride, but regret. Her people had followed their leaders into a fight they didn't understand. When the great silence came, they had no songs left, only ruins. You lost home, Elias said slowly. Yes, she replied. I burned it. Their eyes met, no hate, just shared pain. On the third day, they discovered something strange. A locked chamber deep in the station. Sarian's scanner detected radiation. But not the deadly kind. It was weak, controlled, artificial. Inside, they found a room full of preserved data cores, alien tech, but not from Sarian species, older. Unknown. On one wall, a star map. Most stars were marked red, dead systems, but one was glowing blue. Unmarked. Alive. Double quotes this, Elias asked. Sareen nodded. Signal, not dead. A chance. If the map was real. If the data wasn't centuries old, then there was still a place out there untouched by the war. A hidden world, maybe a sanctuary, maybe a trap. But in a dying universe, even a lie was worth chasing. They stayed up for hours studying the data, slowly decoding the language together. They couldn't fully understand the map, but it gave them direction. Hope. As they worked. Sareen paused. She looked at Elias, his tired face, the cut on his cheek, the stubborn strength he carried. Like a shield. Then she spoke. Why save me? Elias blinked. The translator caught it this time. He thought for a moment, then smiled. Because you saved me first. Sareen looked away. Her voice was quiet. You gave me voice. Again, the silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of something unnamed. And then they laughed. Not because anything was funny, but because, for a moment, the darkness had lifted. Later that night, Sareen stood alone in the corridor. She stared out the viewport at the broken sky. In the distance, the red star was finally dying. She had lost everything to fire once, and now, standing beside a human with nothing left but kindness, she had found a reason to live again. For her people. For his. For something new. Behind her, Elias sat with the translator in his hands. He was recording again, not for Earth. But for her. Day 7, he said. I still don't understand her language fully, but sometimes I don't need to. He looked toward the hallway. We don't need the same words to feel the same loss or the same hope. We're broken, both of us, but together we're learning to speak again, and maybe, he added. That's how peace starts. The screen dimmed. Outside the station, something stirred in the dark. A signal pinged faint, buried under layers of code. Unseen. Unnoticed. Listening. Watching. And now, it had heard them. Asterisk. The broken Hopethy silence in the station had changed. It no longer felt like quiet. It felt like a warning. Captain Elias Gray paced slowly through the dark hallway, his footsteps echoing against the rusted metal. The light from his torch danced over the alien walls, now marked with symbols. Some glowing faint blue, some blinking red. Saw HRIan walked beside him, her scanner humming low. Her face was tight with focus. Something in the data they'd found, that star map, the preserved archives, wasn't just history. It was a message. And part of it was missing. Hours earlier, they had celebrated, not with joy, but with quiet relief. The discovery of a possible safe haven, a system not marked dead. A faint but clear signal from a distant star had felt like a miracle. There's still life out there, Elias had said, pointing to the blue star on the map. Saw HRI and had nodded, eyes full of cautious hope. Maybe not too late, they began prepping the station's only remaining long-range signal array. If they could repair it, they could try to send a message. Not just to the blue system, but to anyone still listening. But as they dug deeper into the station's core, the truth began to surface, layer by layer. Like rot under metal. It started with a door, a heavy one, sealed with alien code. Cyrene bypassed the lock. Inside, they found a control room, untouched by time. And in the center, ACRYO-chamber. Still active, still humming. Sarian's scanner confirmed it. One life form. Asleep. Not human. Not from her species either. Older. Unknown. Elias stared at the chamber's glass. The creature inside was strange, taller than Cyrene, with bone-like armor fused to its body. Tubes ran into its chest, its eyes were closed, but its skin twitched slightly as if dreaming. What is it? He asked. Saw HRI and scanned the markings on the walls. Her translator flickered. Guardian, she said finally. Prototype. She showed him the files she had decrypted. Incomplete logs from the builders of the station. This place wasn't a sanctuary. It was a vault. The creature was a weapon, something built to guard the last hope of a dying empire. Its body held the last encoded coordinates of the blue system. Without it, they were guessing in the dark, and the chamber had only one unlock code. A biological trigger, a living being, only one. Saw HRI and stared at the panel. So did Elias. The station's emergency protocol still worked, just barely. It had enough power to open the chamber at once. But the activation required an energy boost drawn directly from the life support systems. Once used, all oxygen would begin to fail. They'd have only minutes. Only one person could survive the process. The other would suffocate. The realization settled like dust. Elias stepped back. There has to be another way. Cyrene didn't reply. She was already thinking, calculating. Trying to reroute power, hack the system, override the code. None of it worked. He placed a hand on her shoulder. Don't. She turned, frustrated. We must reach that system. Others may live. Code is key, and it's not worth your life. He said softly. Is it worth yours? She asked. He didn't answer. Later, Elias recorded a new log. Not for Earth. Not even for Saw HRI and Dog, but for whoever might find it. We found a key to something bigger than us. Something buried in a war that killed stars. But unlocking it means choosing who dies. He paused. I already made my choice. He hid the recording under a floor panel in the station when Cyrene returned from her scans. She found Elias waiting near the chamber. He smiled at her. You should be the one. She froze. You're stronger, he said. Faster, smarter. You can survive out there. I was already dead before you found me. Her face darkened. You lie. I'm not, he said, voice quiet. I was floating in that pod, waiting for the end. You gave me time, gave me peace. That's more than I deserved. Stop. She said sharply. You speak like story already finished. Maybe it is, he whispered. For me. He reached for the chamber controls. But Cyrene grabbed his hand. And for the first time, she shouted, a sound full of rage, sorrow, and something that sounded like grief. You saved me. Don't take that away. Tears didn't fall from her eyes. Her species didn't cry, but her voice broke. Not again, she whispered. Not another gone. Elias looked at her, stunned. Then he said something the translator had no word for. He simply whispered, thank you, and walked away. That night, Cyrene sat alone in the control room. In front of her, the activation switch. She stared at it for hours. Then she did what she swore never to do again. She began to pray. Not to gods, not to fate, but to the memory of those she had lost. Show me what is right, she whispered. When Elias woke the next morning, the chamber was open. The creature inside was gone. The air was thin. To thin. He stumbled into the main corridor, coughing, dizzy. Cyrene? He called out, panic rising. No response. He reached the core and saw her. Collapsed near the wall. Barely breathing. But alive. A mask on her face. His mask. She had rigged the oxygen to save him. Again. On the floor, next to her, was a glowing device. Coordinates. To the blue system, their final hope. And a simple message. Burned into the metal wall in both their languages. We survive, together, or not at all. Behind them, the station lights flickered. Outside, something vast moved in the dark. The creature, the Guardian, had awakened. But whether it was a savior or a storm, they would soon find out. Asterisk, the final gift. Guardian moved without sound. 7 feet tall, armor grown into bone. Its eyes were glassy silver, scanning everything in the ruined station. Its steps were slow, heavy, not like a monster waking, but a soldier returning. Captain Elias Gray crouched in the shadows of the hallway, pulse racing. He had seen many things in war, but this wasn't a weapon. This was judgment. The Creature had awakened when Sareen unlocked the chamber using the station's last power reserves. The moment she collapsed from oxygen loss, the vault doors had opened, the codes had transferred. The final coordinates to the hidden star system, the possible sanctuary, were now in their possession. But not without cost, and not without consequence. In the control room, Sareen was awake now, barely. Her body was weak, starved of oxygen. Elias had given her most of his mask's reserves, enough to keep her alive for another hour. Maybe two. She tried to speak, but her voice cracked. The translator clicked in and out. Guardian, protect protocol. If threat, destroys. What kind of threat? Elias asked. She looked at him, struggling. Us. Then she pointed to the wall. The star map, the blue system, was marked as preserved, but another symbol blinked nearby. A red triangle. Tracking them. Following. They hadn't been alone in the system when the station had activated. The enemy that destroyed Earth had heard, and the Guardian knew it. The creature wasn't evil. It had one purpose: protect the last coordinates at any cost, and now it believed Elias and Sareen were the risk, to beings from opposite war-torn races, bonded by something no war AI could calculate: compassion. But the Guardian didn't understand kindness. Only logic. Elias looked at Sareen, lying on the floor, shivering. He could feel the ship moving again, power coming back online. The codes had awakened the escape pod in Bay 3. It was small, fast, and ready. But it only had one seat. Again. One choice, always one. You have to go, he told her, standing up. She shook her head, weak but furious. No. Yes, he said, the coordinates are in your ship's drive now. The Guardian activated it for transfer. If you make it to the blue system, you can bring peace. Tell your people, tell anyone left, not without you, she whispered. He touched her forehead gently. You've already saved me twice. I need you, she breathed. He smiled, tired, aching, broken. Then live, and carry me with you. The Guardian approached. Elias stood in its path. You don't have to do this, he said. It tilted its head. Then spoke, voice deep, metallic and ancient. Mission, preserve future. Delete threat, secure last seed of hope, then let me give you hope, Elias said, pulling a wire from his arm. The one connected to the ship's AI interface. He uploaded a small file, his final log. Watch this, then decide. The Guardian paused. The file played. It was not a weapon file, not a plan. Just the message: we tried to be kind. The Guardian's body trembled. The AI that lived inside it ran thousands of calculations. Nothing matched this behavior. No weapon logic. No military pattern. Just sacrifice. Just humanity. A value the AI had no data for. But Sareen understood. She crawled forward. Placed her hand on the Guardian's chest. We are not threat, she whispered. We are the hope. The Guardian stared at her hand. Then at Elias. For a long moment, nothing. Then it turned. And pointed toward the pod. One seat, fully charged. Permission granted. Elias moved fast. He picked Sareen up in his arms, lighter than she looked, and carried her down the corridor. Alarms blared again in the distance. Whatever had followed them into this system, it was close now. Sareen gripped his arm. Come, she said. Both, find a way. He smiled, holding back tears. I already found it. He strapped her. And he closed the hatch. She banged the window, crying out, alien words, desperate and raw. He placed a hand on the glass and smiled. Live for both of us. He turned, walked back down the corridor. The Guardian was waiting. Elias nodded. You know what to do. The Guardian raised one arm and sent the escape pod hurtling into space. Faster than light. Toward the blue star, toward the last hope. Behind it, the station exploded in white fire. In the pod, Sareen screamed, not in rage. Not in anger, but in loss, something she thought she could never feel again. The translator whispered one last word into her ear from the recording Elias had left. In the station, love. And for the first time in her life, Sareen cried. Weeks later, the pod arrived at the blue system. Green world. Clean air. A signal, old but human. Refugees. The last of Elias's people waiting. Sareen stepped onto the surface. Alone. But carrying a voice. A message, a gift, not just the coordinates, but the story of a man who gave his last breath so that kindness could live. The legacy of kindness. The blue world had no name. Not in human maps, not in alien records. It had been hidden for centuries, buried under outdated star charts and encryption from a forgotten war. Now, after the silence of galaxies, the planet breathed again. Sareen stepped out of the escape pod, her boots touching soil that had not known footsteps in 1,000 years. Tall trees shimmered with silver leaves, wind danced over glassy rivers. Birds, strange and beautiful, soared across a violet sky, but she didn't notice the beauty. Not yet, not until she looked back and saw that she was alone. Again. The Weeks that followed were slow. Hard. Healing rarely feels like victory. She was taken in by the last remnants of a human colony. Ragged survivors, once soldiers and scientists. Now farmers and engineers building again from broken pieces. They looked at her with fear at first. She didn't blame them, but when she showed them the final transmission from Elias Gray, when they saw his face, heard his voice, and read the translator logs he left behind, they understood. He had chosen her, and that choice changed everything. Months passed. Saw HRIN stayed in the human settlement, helping repair systems, grow crops, and restore the old communication towers. But every night, she sat by the river with Elias's photo in her hand, the one he had kept. In his pod, a woman, a child, a life lost, and now, somehow, living again. Through her. One evening, as twin moons rose above the horizon, a human child approached her. A girl with a broken translator clutched in her hands. She handed it to Cyrene and whispered, "Can you help me fix it?" Cyrene blinked. Then smiled. The first real smile since Elias had given her his last breath. Word of Cyrene spread quickly. Not just because she was alien, but because of the story, his story. The tale of a man who chose to save someone who had no reason to be saved. A warrior widow from a forgotten war, a stranger, a supposed enemy, and yet he had given everything for her. And because of that one act, a new peace began. Cyrene became more than a survivor. She became a bridge. Other species, hiding across the stars, received her signals. Some answered. Others watched. But one by one, they began to speak again. The message was always the same: we are not monsters, we are people, we loved, we dreamed, we tried. The words Elias had recorded in his final message now echoed across systems. What started as a whisper became a movement. Years later, in the heart of the blue world, a monument stood. Simple. Clean. A single black stone with two carvings: Elias Gray, humanity's last kindness, Cyrene of Ashaval. The first voice of peace above it. A holo display looped the original log: if anyone hears this, just know we tried, not to win, not to conquer, but to be kind. Pilgrims came from far systems, not to mourn, but to remember, and to learn what no machine ever taught, that kindness is stronger than war, stronger than survival. Stronger than fear. Saw HRIN never left the planet, not because she couldn't, but because she chose to stay where his voice had lived. She became a teacher, not of weapons, but of stories. To children of every species, children who had never seen war but would grow up knowing what peace cost, and why it mattered. In her final days, she recorded a message of her own. For the stars. For the silence. For anyone who might forget what it means to reach out instead of strike. I was a widow, a weapon, an empty name drifting through the dark. Then one human spoke, and gave me meaning again. He didn't know me, but he saved me. His kindness became the seed of a future neither of us would see, but both of us believed in. If you're out there, drifting, hurting, alone, remember him, remember what it means to be human. And her voice ended, not in sorrow. But in hope. The same hope a dying man had whispered into the stars, never knowing who would hear it. Some say Elias Gray was just a man. Others say he became something more. Not a hero. Not a god. Just a simple truth, a final gift left behind in the cold that warmed the galaxy.